It's day 427. It's also July 6, 2020. And we're on Blue Mountain Road in Colorado.
You ever wake up in the morning and ask yourself, what am I doing? And more importantly, why? Yeah, me too. Hi, my name's Craig, and this is my story. A story about life out there. For visuals while listening, search Life Out There on your favorite social media platform or use the links in the podcast description.
I think we only drove for maybe an hour? Made it 10 miles, maybe. It's slow going in a 32-foot RV on these roads, but far enough up that we could feel the drop in temperatures, and we're literally watching the trees and shrubs grow greener. Miner's Draw Road? Well, it actually becomes Blue Mountain Road as we crossed back over into Colorado. It's also known as Moffett County Road 16, and the best part? We had no idea how far this dirt road goes. But we're going to find out. It just wouldn't be today. I'd read about a spot called Harper's Corner. And it isn't that far from us. I thought we were headed there. Until we crested a mountain, came around a bend, and the view struck me in a way that it felt like it actually stepped on the brake for me. I hadn't realized how high we had actually traveled until it was all laid out there below us. And the perfect spot, complete with a fire ring, lay right ahead of us. I backed in and situated Vacilando, ensuring that I'd fall asleep and wake up looking at the very same beauty that we had spent all day admiring just the day before. But from a very different, in fact, the opposite perspective. Today, we're on that ridge, looking over and down the side of these mountains and down over Miner's Draw, where we had slept just the night before. And with the hiking potential off the charts and a view like this, Harper's Corner would have to wait. The vastness and massiveness of these mountains just never gets old. I just can't help it. Can't help but soak it all in. And always wondering who and what came before us. Not so much how many people or tourists like us found it before we did, but I mean more like those dinosaurs, hundreds of millions of years ago. Am I standing where one stood? Long before this was a mountain. You know, before the universe pulled that massive million-year hat trick on the area, using volcanoes and earthquakes to shove mountains up out of the forests and jungles to create a different paradise. And this paradise, wandered by mountain lions, bison, and bear. How many have walked this very same road we just drove? Maybe even before it was a road. Are we sleeping where the Ute or Paiute people built villages and hunted those buffalo across these plains by day, returning to a mountainside camp? Or did they live amongst the buffalo on the plains, where we slept last night? Did Spanish explorers pass through here? And the Ute Wars, they spanned some 74 years in the region. How many battles took place here, or on the prairies we're looking out over, the one we slept on last night? And are we parked where U.S. Army and cavalry troops came through in their final push to relegate an entire people to a predetermined reservation land way over there in that Uinta Basin? And the cowboys. How How many hundreds of herds of cattle did they wrangle across that prairie and up through this draw to summer grazing fields, and then back down the other way, the lowland, safe harbor from the winter, before the season's first snowfall? And more of those aging corrals along the way up here told us they were definitely here for a very long time. And the occasional stock trailer passing by, well, that tells us they still are. It's a pretty incredible mental contrast, looking around at all this. The stillness of it all, seemingly so untouched. And yet, these mountains, these prairies, they've seen more than we'll ever know. They watched quietly, just like they are right now, watching the three of us look at what they see every day. Dougie and I ventured out a bit further with each walk, sticking near the road for the most part. We know those black bears and mountain lions, they'd prefer to avoid us. But I guess you never know when one might be having a bad day. So I push it. And rattlers? Well, those dang things just seem to be a fixture in these parts. I can't say we've seen many, and we're hoping to keep it that way. Exploring and, well, let's face it, just staring into all of this makes it hard to believe that we've gotten barely 25 miles or so from where we camped in Jensen. Looks like Vernal's about the closest town if you need one, but the map says a place called Cortez, Colorado is around 60 miles away. And I think it's definitely a place to put on the list to visit. I read some pretty cool stuff about the area and the history of the town. Definitely worth a look at some point. But the truth is, sitting here, absorbing all this, there's not a lot to write about. There's a lot to see, a lot to absorb, a lot to think about, a lot to wonder about. And there's plenty of time for random thoughts. In one particular moment, I had a flashback. Los Angeles, California. And how excited I was to go. A transfer at work had given me the opportunity to go home. I'd always considered California home. I mean, isn't where you were born the same as where you're from home? Now, while I've since learned that that isn't always the case, in 1994, I still very much considered California home. What I hadn't considered, California is a big place. And the place I had left as a teenager some 20 years prior, Gilroy, California, that was not Los Angeles. And it definitely wasn't 1994 Los Angeles. A city still deeply scarred, deeply wounded from the riots of 1992. The unrest. And still very fresh off the Northridge earthquake. It devastated the city in January of '94. And nobody had a clue that in just a few short months, Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman would be murdered, and the O.J. Simpson trial would begin, adding even more fuel to the racial tensions that permeated the city. And how quickly my excitement would fade as reality kicked in. I'd never lived in a place where complete strangers walked up to me on the street and asked me for money. And how at first I just felt bad for them. I gave them what I had. But then how quickly I realized that I couldn't afford that. I could barely afford me. How could I afford to feel that bad for somebody else? And then how I got yelled at by a complete stranger when I said no, or that I couldn't. And I had no idea how frequently our stores would be robbed at gunpoint, and what that felt like, and how proficient we would become at executing a lockdown. And I'd never seen a dead person until the morning I took the trash out at work and found one in a dumpster. Or that night we got lost finding our way back home from a night out with friends, and being pulled over by a police officer on a freeway off-ramp. He looked at us and asked, "Are you lost?" And when I said, "Yeah," his response, "Listen to me carefully. Enter the freeway here. Drive 20 miles and take the first Santa Monica exit. When I leave your vehicle, roll your windows up and lock your doors. Don't open them or unlock them until you're home." And he left. It wouldn't be until later that we'd realized that his direction, his tone, it was because we were white and Compton wasn't. And that weekend road trip back to Gilroy, finding the town unrecognizable and thinking, maybe my California might be gone. And then getting ready to leave California for Washington State and wondering, has this place taken a swipe at my humanity? Am I different now? I'd have to be, right? It was such a random flashback to have here, sitting where we are. And I think it's because of the complete oppositeness of it all. A city of 3.5 million people crammed into about 300,000 acres. And over here, some 800 or 900 miles away, an area roughly the same in acreage, but you'd be hard-pressed to find even 30,000 humans within 50 miles in any direction. Now, there for sure was plenty of cool stuff about LA too. I got to see a lot of it. But I think right now, I think I'll take this. Later, I didn't really want to, but at the same time kinda had to. Check the news.
I'm Amy Goodman. Coronavirus cases continue to surge across most of the United States, with nearly 2.9 million confirmed cases and 130,000 reported deaths, around 1/4 of the global death toll and global infections, though both numbers are believed to be significant undercounts of the true toll. On Sunday, the 7-day average for new cases reached a record high in the United States for the last months. Cases are still on the rise in some of the country's most populous states, including Florida, California, and Texas, where Governor Greg Abbott has reversed course, ordering face coverings to be worn in public across most of Texas.
I'm not sure how long we'll hang out here. We still got that Harper's Corner place to check out. And I wonder what we'll learn there.
Turns out, this thing called life comes with a lot of rules. Maybe it's time to break a few. Because you can. No, seriously, you can.